3 things God is using right now to change your life more than you realize. Most of the ways God changes your life don't announce themselves. They don't arrive with noise, certainty, or instant results. They happen quietly, often while you are wondering if anything is happening at all. You may feel stuck, delayed, or stretched in ways you didn't choose, yet something inside you knows you are not the same person you used to be. That tension is not confusion. It is transformation at work. According to the Bible, God rarely changes lives the way we expect. We look for sudden breakthroughs, dramatic answers, and immediate clarity. God looks for depth. He works beneath the surface, shaping how you think, what you trust, and who you rely on. Long before circumstances change, God begins changing the way you carry yourself within them. That inner shift is often invisible to others, but it determines everything that follows. You may be in a season where progress feels slow and direction feels unclear. You pray, you wait, you try to stay faithful, yet life does not seem to move forward the way you hoped. But God is not wasting this season. He is using it. The Bible shows us again and again that God uses ordinary, uncomfortable, and even unwanted experiences to bring about the most lasting change. What feels like delay may be preparation. What feels like loss may be alignment. What feels like weakness may be the doorway to strength you have never known. God does not rush transformation because rushed change rarely lasts. He is more interested in who you are becoming than how quickly things improve. He knows that real change must take root deeply, or it will not endure pressure later. That is why he often works through waiting, discomfort, obedience, silence, relationships, weakness, and time, things we tend to resist, but God consistently uses. If you've been questioning whether God is truly working in your life, this message is for you. You are not overlooked. You are not behind. You are in process. And the things God is using right now, whether you recognize them or not, are shaping your future more than you realize. As you listen, allow God to shift your perspective. The change you are longing for may already be happening, quietly, faithfully, and far more deeply than you imagined. Number 1, God uses waiting to reshape your trust and direction. One of the most powerful tools God uses to change your life is waiting. Not passive waiting, but the kind that stretches your trust and exposes where your confidence truly rests. According to the Bible, waiting is never empty time. It is a season where God works deeply beneath the surface, reshaping your desires, priorities, and dependence on Him. Waiting confronts your need for control. When answers delay and outcomes remain uncertain, you are forced to decide what you trust when clarity is absent. God often uses this tension to loosen your grip on your own plans, so He can realign your heart with His. What you once demanded, you begin to surrender. What you once rushed, you begin to release. Waiting changes not just what you want, but how you want it. In seasons of waiting, God redirects your direction internally before He moves anything externally. You may start waiting for one outcome and realize that God has quietly altered your desires altogether. This is not loss, it is alignment. God knows that the direction you asked for may not be the direction that will sustain you, so He reshapes your trust first. Waiting also teaches endurance. Faith that only functions when answers are immediate is fragile. God builds resilient faith by allowing time to pass without explanation. In that space, your prayers become deeper, your listening becomes more attentive, and your reliance on God becomes more honest. You stop performing faith and start living it. If you are waiting right now, it does not mean God is withholding change. It often means He is changing you in ways that will make the next season healthier and more stable. Waiting removes shallow confidence and replaces it with rooted trust, and that kind of trust alters how you walk forward. God uses waiting not to slow you down, but to prepare you to move wisely. What He reshapes in you during this season will influence every decision you make afterward. And one day you will realize that the waiting did not delay your life, it directed it. Number 2. God uses discomfort to expose and refine your heart. Another way God changes your life more than you realize is through discomfort. Not all discomfort is punishment. According the Bible, God often allows tension, pressure, and stretching to expose what comfort keeps hidden. Discomfort reveals what you depend on, what you fear, and where your faith is still shallow. When life is comfortable, growth can stagnate. Discomfort disrupts routines and assumptions. It brings buried dates to the surface. You begin to see where pride has settled, where fear has influenced decisions, and where self-reliance has replaced trust. God uses these moments not to harm you, but to heal what you could not see before. Discomfort also teaches flexibility. You learn how to respond instead of react, how to pray instead of panic, how to trust instead of control. These lessons reshape your character. They make you less brittle and more resilient. You become someone who can remain steady even when circumstances shift unexpectedly. God often uses loss, disappointment, or frustration to remove false supports. Things you leaned on for identity, security, or comfort are gently or sometimes abruptly taken away. This can feel unsettling, but it creates space for deeper dependence on God. What replaces those supports is not weakness, but strength that is rooted in Him. If you are uncomfortable right now, resist the urge to escape it immediately. Ask God what He is revealing. Discomfort is often the invitation to transformation. It challenges who you thought you were and introduces who you are becoming. God changes lives through discomfort because it forces honesty, and honesty before God is the beginning of lasting change. Number 3. God uses obedience in small things to prepare you for bigger change. One of the most underestimated ways God changes your life is through small, quiet acts of obedience. According to the Bible, transformation rarely begins with major decisions. It begins with daily choices that seem ordinary and insignificant. God watches how you respond to what He places in front of you now, not just how you dream about the future. Small obedience reshapes your character before it reshapes your circumstances. When you choose honesty where compromise would be easier, patience where frustration would feel justified, or faithfulness where quitting would make sense, something shifts inside you. These moments may not feel dramatic, but they are deeply formative. God is teaching you how to walk in alignment before He entrusts you with more responsibility. Obedience also trains your spiritual sensitivity. When you respond to God in small matters, your awareness of His guidance sharpens. You begin to recognize His voice more clearly because you take it seriously. Obedience builds momentum, not outwardly at first, but inwardly. Your conscience becomes clearer. Your discernment becomes steadier. Your faith becomes more grounded. Many people ask God for major change while ignoring daily instruction. But Scripture shows that God multiplies what is faithful. He does not bypass small obedience to bring big transformation. He builds on it. What feels repetitive or unnoticed is often the foundation for lasting growth. Small obedience also dismantles pride. It teaches you that change is not about grand gestures, but about consistency. You stop waiting for the right moment and start honoring God where you are. This humility positions you for growth that is sustainable rather than superficial. If you feel like your life is not changing fast enough, consider what God may be shaping through everyday obedience. Each quiet yes is altering your direction more than you realize. God is forming habits of faith that will support the change you are praying for. God changes lives one obedient step at a time. And those steps, though small, carry more power than you imagine. Number 4. God uses silence to deepen your discernment and intimacy. Silence is one of the most misunderstood tools God uses to change your life. When God feels quiet, it is easy to assume distance or disapproval. But according to the Bible, silence is often an invitation to deeper intimacy and sharper discernment. God does not always speak loudly. Sometimes he draws you closer by withholding immediate answers. Silence forces you to listen differently. Without constant reassurance, you begin to pay attention to peace, conviction, and alignment rather than words alone. God uses silence to mature your faith, teaching you to trust his presence even when his voice is gentle or delayed. This kind of trust cannot be learned in noisy seasons. In silence, your motivations are exposed. You discover whether you seek God for answers or for relationship. When no answers come quickly, do you stay present or grow restless? God uses these moments to refine your heart, shifting your focus from outcomes to closeness. Silence also deepens discernment. When external noise fades, internal clarity grows. You begin to distinguish between your own thoughts and God's leading. Silence creates space for reflection, repentance, and realignment. It slows your pace so wisdom can rise. God's silence is not absence. It is intentional restraint. He knows that constant instruction can create dependence on clarity rather than trust. By allowing silence, he strengthens your spiritual maturity. You learn how to walk by faith, not by constant confirmation. If you are in a quiet season, do not rush to fill it. Stay attentive, stay prayerful. Silence often precedes insight. God is shaping how you listen so that when he does speak, you will recognize him without confusion. God changes lives through silence by teaching hearts how to remain faithful without noise. Number 5. God uses people to shape you, even the difficult ones. One of the most overlooked ways God changes your life is through people. Not only the ones who encourage you, but also the ones who challenge, misunderstand, disappoint, or stretch you. According to the Bible, relationships are one of God's primary tools for transformation, because they reveal what is truly in your heart. You can hide impatience, pride, and fear when you're alone, but people bring those things to the surface. God often uses people to refine your character in ways solitude never could. Through relationships, you learn humility when you are corrected, patience when you are tested, forgiveness when you are wounded, and love when it costs you something. These lessons are rarely comfortable, but they are deeply effective. God is less interested in your comfort than in your growth. Difficult people expose areas where your faith is still developing. They reveal how you respond when things don't go your way, when you are misunderstood, or when you feel treated unfairly. God does not allow these interactions by accident. He uses them to teach you how to respond rather than react, how to love without condition, and how to trust him with justice instead of taking it into your own hands. God also uses people to mirror you. Sometimes the traits that frustrate you in others are the very areas God is working on in you. These moments invite self-examination, not condemnation. They offer you the opportunity to grow in awareness and maturity. Even positive relationships are shaping you. God uses mentors, friends, and community to encourage you, challenge your thinking, and strengthen your faith. But it is often through the difficult relationships that the deepest change occurs, because they require surrender, wisdom, and grace. If you are navigating relational tension right now, do not assume it is meaningless. Ask God what he is forming in you through it. The change he brings through people is often slow, but it is profound. God changes lives through relationships because love cannot remain theoretical. It must be practiced. And every interaction becomes a classroom where God shapes who you are becoming. Number 6, God uses failure and weakness to redirect your strength. Another powerful way God changes your life more than you realize is through failure and weakness. According to the Bible, God does not despise broken plans or expose limitations. He uses them. Failure strips away illusions of control and self-sufficiency, creating space for dependence on Him. When things don't work out as you hoped, it can feel disorienting. You may question your calling, your ability, or your direction. But God often uses failure to redirect your strength, not remove it. He reveals where you relied too heavily on yourself and invites you to lean more fully on Him. Weakness teaches honesty. It humbles pride and softens the heart. When you can no longer rely on your own ability, you become open to God's power in new ways. Scripture shows that God's strength is often most visible where human strength has reached its limit. Failure also refines your perspective. You learn that your worth is not tied to success, and your identity is not dependent on outcomes. This frees you to pursue obedience rather than perfection. God uses failure to detach your confidence from results and root it in Him. God never wastes weakness. What feels like a setback may be realignment. What feels like loss may be redirection. God often closes doors not to punish you, but to guide you toward a path that better fits who He is shaping you to be. If you are walking through disappointment or feeling exposed by failure, do not conclude that God is finished with you. He is often just beginning a deeper work. Weakness becomes the soil where humility, trust, and resilience grow. God changes lives through failure, by teaching hearts where true strength comes from, and that strength lasts far beyond any success. Number 7. God uses time to make the change last. One of the most overlooked yet powerful tools God uses to change your life is time. Not speed, not sudden breakthroughs. Time. According to the Bible, God is never rushed, and He is never careless with transformation. He understands that quick change can impress, but slow change endures. That is why God often allows transformation to unfold gradually, even when you are eager for things to move faster. Time reveals what is genuine. Emotions can surge and fade, intentions can rise and collapse. But time tests what remains. God uses time to separate momentary enthusiasm from lasting conviction. When change happens slowly, it has a chance to take root deeply. Habits are reshaped. Perspectives mature. Faith stabilizes. What grows over time becomes resilient. God also uses time to protect you. Some changes, if they came too quickly, would overwhelm you or distort your character. You may think you are ready for immediate answers, rapid elevation, or instant relief. But God sees the full picture. He knows what your heart, mind, and spirit can carry. Time allows Him to strengthen you gradually, so that when change becomes visible, it does not destroy what He has built. Waiting over time teaches patience, humility, and trust. You learn to walk faithfully without constant progress markers. You stop measuring life by speed and start measuring it by alignment. Time trains you to remain steady even when results are slow. That steadiness becomes part of who you are. Time also brings clarity. What once confused you begins to make sense. What once felt painful begins to feel purposeful. God uses time to connect the lessons you could not see when they were happening. In hindsight, you recognize how each season shaped the next. If you feel like your growth is slower than you hoped, do not assume it is weaker. God values depth over speed. The changes He builds over time are not easily shaken. They endure pressure, disappointment, and responsibility. God uses time because He is building something that must last. The transformation you are walking through now is not meant to impress. It is meant to endure, and when you look back, you will see that time was not delaying your change. It was securing it. Conclusion: recognizing God's hand in the process. God often changes your life in ways you do not recognize until much later. Waiting reshapes your trust. Discomfort exposes and refines your heart. Small obedience builds lasting character. Silence deepens discernment. People sharpen you. Failure redirects your strength. Time secures the work so it lasts. None of these tools feel impressive while you are inside them, but together they form a transformation that is real, deep, and enduring. If you have felt frustrated because life has not changed the way you expected, pause before assuming nothing is happening. God's work is rarely loud, but it is always intentional. The Bible shows us that God is far more concerned with who you are becoming than with how quickly circumstances improve. He works patiently because he cares about permanence, not performance. You are not stagnant. You are being shaped. The very things you may wish God would remove could be the very tools he is using to transform you. Trust does not grow in ease alone. Faith does not mature without tension, and character does not form without time. Take a moment to reflect on your current season. Ask God what he may be forming in you right now. Release the pressure to see immediate results. Stay faithful. Stay open. Stay patient. What God is doing beneath the surface will eventually become visible, but when it does, it will be strong enough to last. If this message encouraged you, share it with someone who may be feeling discouraged in their process. Stay connected for more messages that bring clarity, strength, and perspective to your walk with God. God is changing your life often more deeply, more carefully, and more faithfully than you realize.